Hey, welcome to Michael's Video Game Madness. Yeah, we're not recording a game. How about that? So today it looks like we're doing Mikey Talks. It kind of feels weird to talk about my name in the third person. So there was some contest. I can't remember the channel's name, but two people actually shouted me out, and I appreciate that. And I want to actually mention some channels I like. The contest was to name 5 channels that you really like, and I don't know if the person got the prize that picked the channels or one of the people that got picked got the prize. I'm not sure. I'm probably way too late, but I wanted to do a video anyway. So here I am, super awkward, not hiding behind a camera. Excuse me. And yeah, so here it goes. This is gonna be a pretty bad video. I'm sure my lips aren't syncing with the sound. I'm using my shitty webcam that's attached to my Dell laptop, and it is super slow, so bear with me. And I made the mistake of drinking a soda right before I did this, so I apologize for being rude. Yeah, so where should we begin? So I'm going to pick 5 channels, and I'm going to pick channels that aren't that popular. You might have seen them on other people's pages where they get shouted out, but I am going to do, or I'm going to share with you the pages that I think deserve more subscriptions. So if you've already heard them, great. If you haven't subscribed to them, maybe you should subscribe, because they're really good channels. So I'm gonna start. I've mentioned this guy a lot of times, and that is 65 Gamer Guy. He has been covering ColecoVisions, when at games mostly. He might have covered something between videos, I'm not sure. I've mostly seen ColecoVisions games, and I'm pretty sure I've seen most of his videos, if not all of them. But you should definitely check out his channel. One thing I am concerned about is that once he runs out of ColecoVision games, that he might stop making the channel, and I hope you don't quit making your channel and videos on there. Like, start on Sega Genesis or talk about your job, something. I would hate to see you be lost out of this community. I'm sorry, my verbiage is really bad when I feel under pressure by this camera, and it's intimidating light that's shining on me. But yeah, I hope you don't give up and you find some other stuff, gaming related or not, that you can continue with your channel. But if that's your project, that's cool too, no pressure. But he actually has quite a vast library already. I highly recommend you go and check out his page. I will add links somewhere, either on the video or in the comments, so definitely check it out. The next guy I'm gonna shout out is Sega and More. I've probably mentioned him several times too. He mostly covers Sega Genesis and Sega Master System games, or Sega Mega Drive is what it's considered overseas, or where you live, depending on where you live, of course. And he's really down to earth. He talks about the game. He's super enthusiastic, and you should check his channel out. He covers a lot of different stuff. He's an excellent commenter, just like 65 Gamer Guy. Both are super helpful in talking about channels and making stuff, and both are extremely relatable. Next I will go to Trustef. Now he's been requesting a lot of games, which is cool. You should look at my channel list on the right side of the screen on my main channel page, where you can request games too, and he's been fully taking advantage of that feature of my channel, and it's been awesome. And he's also really awesome about adding feedback. But to top it all off, he has his own channel, and he covers mostly Atari ST games that I've seen so far, but I don't think he limits himself to that. And you should definitely check out his channel. He's really down to earth. He's an awesome person to get comments from. He replies to comments, and he comments on your videos a lot. I would highly suggest you checking him out. Next, I don't know how I say this. I apologize if I'm butchering your channel's name, but regardless of how I say the channel's name. It's awesome. And that is Shogbox. It's S-H-O-G box. I don't know whether Shog's like something that's abbreviated or what. I don't know. Channel's awesome. It's a guy and his wife. They're from Australia, according to the accents and the little information thing on the side of the screen. So it's this dude and his wife, and he's usually the one that's playing most of the time, and him and his wife play the games together and comment. They haven't added as many videos as they usually do as of lately, but they have quite a few. They usually do Let's Plays, which I know some people don't really like those, but you should definitely check them out because they're just good to watch with the commentary and them talking to each other back and forth, and they're actually legitimately funny. And he's actually a pretty good game player because he managed to finish Aliens 3 on the Sega Genesis, which is something I could never do. So that should make you check out his channel alone. But yes, definitely check out Shogbox's channel. The next channel I will cover, I know he's been shouted out as well, is the Limey Dragon's Den, and he just has excellent commentary. He usually covers Atari 2600 games. I forgot to say who Shogbox covers, or what Shogbox covers, and it's usually Sega Genesis games or sometimes PC Flash games that I've seen. But anyway, back to the Limey Dragon's Den. He covers 2600 games, and he recently put up a video of Ghostbusters 2 for the Atari 2600, which is one of the last games made for the system, and it is super hard and not the greatest game in the world. And what he went through to record the video all the way to the end, because he never saw a playthrough of it, so he like stopped the game during save states to start over again to make sure he beat it. Like, if you're that dedicated to like trying to provide a decent video on your channel, like, you deserve more subscribers than you have. Congratulations. And his commentary is amazing to boot. Definitely check out his channel. Check out all these channels. They're awesome. If I didn't say enough or I forgot something, find it on their channel. Figure it out for yourself, but definitely check them out. I only picked 5 because that's what people were picking 5. If I didn't pick you, that doesn't mean I don't like your channel. I love all your guys' channels that I subscribe to. Don't get offended. And I tried to pick people who didn't have as many subscribers, because there's channels that I like that have maybe 1,000 or so subscribers and more. And I felt it was fair to pick channels that I like to watch that had at least under 500 and or maybe even the 200 range. You know, people like me that are getting started, and these are really people to talk to as well, because they're people that are starting out and they're kind of in your situation if you're starting out a channel, and they're just really awesome people. And people that tend to have lower subscribers are better at replying to comments and stuff like that, because the more people you get, the harder it is to reply to people. I have every ounce of respect for you people that have a ton of subscribers and you're able to reply to all the comments. I don't know how you do it. If I get a lot of people, it'll be awesome, but then I'm gonna have to be selective about who I reply to, just because just what I have now, sometimes it's really time consuming. I'll like look at the clock and it'll look like one of those movies where it has the time lapse and you see the clock spinning around. Yeah, it feels like that sometimes when I'm on YouTube. So anyway, check out those channels. Now, usually when I do these talkie videos, they're also extremely rare, so there's not a lot of them. But what I try to do is come up with a topic, and I would like to hear from you guys as well. So, yeah, every generation really has their defining games. Like the 8-bit generation had like Mario, Zelda. 16-bit pretty much had sequels of Mario and Zelda, Castlevania, stuff like that. And yeah, so my question to you guys is, since the year 2000, what are some of the defining games of this new century so far. In 2000, usually cover late PlayStation, Nintendo 64 era to now. So you got a good chunk of channels. You have good chunk of consoles and PC games, which you have from PS1, PS2 to PlayStation 3, Xbox 360, GameCube, the Wii, whatever. And basically, even if you don't like the game, but you think that it was defining of like this century, meaning like if you think it was a classic, it helped pioneer a game, even though it might not have been the best in the series, or if you didn't care for it, but you think it's important to gaming, just what do you think are this century's classics so far? Because most of the games that come out these days are mostly copycats of each other, especially in the first person genre. So so I came up with a list. I know it's not going to be the best list. You're probably going to disagree, and that's great. Put the comments down of what you think. What are your lists? So I'm going to go down a list. I'm going to keep the list limited to 10. If you want to add more than 10, fine. I probably am skipping a lot of games, but this was a list that I wanted to make because, well, I'll get to it. And when I say I'll get to it, it'll be the number 2 game on my list. So the number 1 game I feel like should be on the list is Grand Theft Auto 3. All the Grand Theft Auto games are good. Grand Theft Auto 3 is pretty primitive if you go back and play it now. But I think that was one of the defining games for the open-ended sandbox game. Like when you played Grand Theft Auto 3, you could drive. It's a shooting game. It was everything, and it fit perfectly. Not one thing felt out of place. The aiming system could have been better, but they rectified that in later Grand Theft Auto, especially the sequels. Like Grand Theft Auto 4 is one of my favorite games, and you know when a Grand Theft Auto game comes out, you know it's already going to be good. So definitely Grand Theft Auto 3. There's so many copycats out of that, and I feel like that's an important game that's come out during this century, and that, and even for the controversy behind it. So I feel like it's important. Number 2, this is the game that made me think about this list when I went to go back and play, was Half-Life 2. Now, when I played Half-Life 2, I was completely blown away, and then I moved on and I went to go play other games, and I recently got the orange box and I started playing it again, and it felt like a brand new game again, and it felt better than a lot of the contemporary first-person shooter games I played, especially with the physics puzzles and stuff like that. The graphics aren't mind-blowing now, but I just can't get over like how nice of a game it is. I mean, it took forever to come out, like compared to Half-Life 1, like 10 years just about it took. If I'm way off of that estimate, I'm doing this like off the fly, so I'm sure half of my facts are probably way off, but you know, call it quirky, charm, whatever. But I think Half-Life 2 is really important and really helped the story-driven first-person shooters. I really think it's helped games like BioShock are even though it's kind of based on Thief. The heck is a game called Dishonored. Like games like that, I think it developed like that. Sort of feels like it's open in it, but it slowly pushes you through a story, and it's just very atmospheric, and you feel like you live there. And that leads me to 3, which is Oblivion. Skyrim is obviously a good game too, and a lot of people like Morrowind, and there were games before that, but I think Oblivion was the first Elder Scrolls game to make the open-ended, like, medieval fantasy game that was single player, feel like a massive multiplayer game pretty much, and you felt like you could go around and do anything, and the environment's like super diverse, and it really feels like you're there. I mean, I don't know if Oblivion looks as good as Skyrim now, because I know Skyrim's graphics have significantly improved since Oblivion. The only downside I'd have to say about Oblivion and Skyrim is they need to work on the emotion and expression of the characters, but there's so much going on in the game, I can just let that slide. But I think that's like one of the pioneering, like, important games of this century. Number 4 on my list is the Mass Effect trilogy. That basically took an RPG and a shooter and blended it together and showed you what you could really do with an RPG and have it work as a shooter as well as an RPG and make choices and basically be able to import your character. Like, the Knights of the Old Republic was basically kind of like what Mass Effect was heading towards. I mean, Knights of the Old Republic basically led into Mass Effect. They have a lot of similarities. I mean, it was made by the same company, but that was the game before where you made choices and stuff like that. But it didn't really have the impact Mass Effect did. But Knights of the Old Republic really didn't have like a true trilogy. The third game in the series is a massive multiplayer online game. Second one was made by a different company, but yeah, like, Mass Effect basically made the mechanics perfect on both ends, and if you haven't played the Mass Effect trilogy yet, I definitely recommend it. Number 5, for a first-person shooter on the console, I'm gonna have to go with Halo. Halo was the one that really took things out of PC gaming that console gamers didn't have when it came to first-person shooters, and basically introduced the first-person shooter genre to the console and kind of perfected it, where it had the deathmatch and stuff like that, being able to ride vehicles, and basically what you were missing out on the PC, they kind of brought to the consoles, and it basically perfected, like, the console dual analog stick control, like, everything controlled perfect. Now, I'm not going to say that there's first-person shooters out now that don't control better and do things better, especially even the sequels to Halo. But that was the first one that really felt like a console first-person shooter could be held up there with PC games. Now, obviously, games have gone as really far, like Call of Duty and all that stuff, but I think that was pioneering for the first-person shooter. Alright, the next game I'm going to pick is Rock Band, and that's obvious because I don't know of any other game that has a whole instrument set, and it's one of the best multiplayer games with a bunch of people that I've ever played in my entire life. And it's a shame that they lost popularity, but I definitely could see why, because they came out with like a new version like every single year, and it wasn't really necessary. They could have done that with updates, but you know, it basically like took the music genre, which were, you had like Guitar Hero and stuff like that was super cool, and it just took it to the next level, and basically it made the multiplayer awesome, where you had to work as a team, and it was way better than any version of karaoke I've ever been involved with. And it wasn't as embarrassing because there's more people than just you in front of a TV screen reading words. But you can play the game that way and embarrass yourself. But yeah, I think Rock Band was important, even though it kind of disappeared into obscurity and they quit making Guitar Hero games. But at the time, I think they were important. And I think when we look back, we'll remember Rock Band, and I hope someday that it actually makes a return, and not into the Rock Band arcade type game where you're Rock Band Blitz or whatever it's called, where you actually just use the buttons. I would like to play plastic instruments at some point in the future one more time. Now I'm going to go with Little Big Planet, and I picked Little Big Planet because I have never seen any other game where you can basically like do whatever you want as long as you're creative enough. And I know you can mod PC games, but this was something from a console that basically made it possible to to take things from the game, not knowing anything about geometry or anything like that, and basically build levels and share them. Like when you get, especially Little Big Planet 2, when you get Little Big Planet 2, you basically have a game with an unlimited amount of levels, and it's popular, and so you always have people to play with. And now it's on like every Sony system, the Vita, the PSP, PlayStation 3. So yeah, I think that just took the modding of the PC world and condensed it and perfected it for a console world, where you have tools that are deep enough. Like if you want to make, I'm mostly referring to Little Big Planet 2. If you want to make a shooter, you can make a shooter. If you want to make a side scroller, you can make a side scroller. If you want to make a movie trailer, you can do that. There's just so much that you can modify and make in that game. I feel like that's something that's important to this century, and I hope other games catch on, like with level makers and stuff like that makes it easy, so you don't have to get like a modding set of like the Source engine or the Doom engine or whatever, and have to know a little bit about game design to actually be able to build it. Like anybody can do it as long as you kind of experiment. Number 8 is Shenmue, and it wasn't perfect. The fighting was kind of clunky, and interrogating people was kind of repetitive, because he kind of asked people. He'd always walk to people and go, on that day when it was snowing outside. You know, that got old. But at the same time, it's the only game where when I picked up a phone, I had to individually put my finger into the rotary holes of the phone and actually turn them. When you played Shenmue, you felt like you were Ryu in the game and you were looking for your father. They ended up making a sequel, and the sequel left off on a cliffhanger. I hope that they eventually finish the story. I would like to see Ryu again and his various adventures, but just the experience of just getting out of your house, going through the kitchen drawers and stuff like that, like reminded me of when I played Heavy Rain, and a lot, like there's other games like Indigo Prophecy that was kind of like that, where you actually live like the character. I know Grand Theft Auto is open-ended and whatnot, but it's kind of like there's only so much you can interact with. Like Shenmue was like more intimate. Like you put a coin in the soda machine. If you want a little toy out of a vending machine, you put your money in and get the little toys, and you can collect the toys. You can go to a restaurant. You can go to the arcade if you want to. You have a job as a forklift operator. Like, I've never played a game that was quite like that, and I could see where it might have inspired games like Heavy Rain, maybe a little bit of LA Noire. I'm not sure if even Grand Theft Auto would be the same if Shenmue didn't exist. Like, I think Shenmue's an important game. Number 9, I obviously had to put a game for motion control, because this era will be remembered for motion control, for better or worse. It usually doesn't work, but The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword was probably the game that actually got motion control right for once. It's sad that it was released so late in the Wii's life cycle, but to be able to have the control of slicing where you want to and acting like you have a sword and not actually just swinging the little remote, which I hate, where it's inaccurate but it's super accurate and it's more immersive. Like, out of all the games that I was thinking about motion control, because I wanted to pick one, I think The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword is the one to pick of the game that utilizes motion control the best. So that's the one I picked for motion control. Number 10, God of War. I picked God of War. Yes, we had Devil May Cry, but I think God of War perfected the 3D action game, the 3D platformer, the 3D Castlevania that Konami still needs to make. Pretty much, like 3D games before it, like you'd play them and they were always quirky. The camera was usually terrible. Like when you tried to deflect or block something, the character would have to finish an animation before he could block, and it was ridiculous. You would get killed just because they couldn't finish an animation. And now like games like basically Dante's Inferno and like I guess Darksiders and gosh, what was that other game called? I don't know. Like the last two games made by Ninja Theory, the last one was Devil May Cry. That's a remake, but I think they took some hints from God of War on that. And I'm trying to think of what the other game they made, where it was Enslaved. That's what it was called. And just it perfected the 3D action genre in my opinion. And I'm sorry I've rambled so much. These videos are super awkward. I feel like there's a podium in front of me and I'm reading a school paper and it's super embarrassing and I'm trying to think about what to say, but it's not coming out. Yeah, I'm probably over explaining myself, but this is my best attempt at creating a list of defining games. I'm sure your replies, if you reply, I'll probably be decent and clear things up, or maybe you can share things with me that I might have not have thought about, because there are a lot of games, but I think since the year 2000, these are some of the games that I think that will define the past decade. It's year 2013, so the past decade, 3 years, whatever. I know that's not a catchy way of saying it, but since the year 2000, I think these games would hold up as pioneers. They might not be the best and you might not like them, but I think that they're important games in my opinion. And I don't play all of them like all the time. Like when it comes to Oblivion and stuff like that, I'm a casual player. Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword, it was cool and all, but I never finished it. I still liked it, but you know, like I'm not a fanatic. Like Grand Theft Auto 3, I couldn't go back and play it now. I like the new Grand Theft Autos, but they were games that really perfected the genre that they either created or they, like I said, they helped perfect it to the point where games started to copy them. And I hope that companies come up with new genres, but you know, the further you go into the future, the harder it is to come up with original things. So I'm going to stop this video here. I think I've been awkward enough and I probably rambled, probably used horrible grammar and dialect and had a lot of awkward pauses, gestures, whatever, and you name it. So I'm gonna stop here, but it was nice talking to you guys. Thank you for watching my channel. I appreciate all the subscriptions. Feel free to share what you think are the defining games since the year 2000, the beginning of this century. I'd say millennium, but we're not gonna live that long, probably not even the century. So yeah, just share with me. Thanks for supporting the channel, and if you like this channel, please subscribe. And if you didn't like this video, check out the other ones because they're not nearly this awkward. But thanks again for watching, and thanks again for contributing to the YouTube gaming community and everything like that. You guys that make the channels, thank you for making an awesome channel and inspiring people like me who started out watching to want to make my own channel. And guys, if you haven't, make sure you check out the channels that I listed. So this is Michael on Mikey's Video Game Madness. I don't even know my own channel's name. Weird. But I'm signing off. Thank you guys for watching, and I will have more videos for you up shortly. Please don't time me because that might be a lie. Alright guys, take care. Bye.